Ladies and gentlemen, our show was off the air last week, so this is our first show back since the tragic school shooting in Parkland, Florida, and we want to take this time to send our love to the families of the victims, to the victims who are still recovering from their physical injuries, to the incredible first responders who were involved, and of course, to all of those students who survived but will deal with the aftermath of this for the rest of their lives. I've got to tell you, when I came to America 3 years ago to take this job, I could never have imagined that as a late-night host I'd be talking about mass shootings and talking about so many of them. And I remember after I spoke about the Las Vegas shooting, some people said that I shouldn't be talking about it, that it's not my place, I'm not from this country, I don't understand the history, and maybe they're right, you know. I still don't understand the rules of American football, baseball. I only just learned how this country pronounces the word oregano. It's clearly oregano. But I may not be American, but I have experience of what happened in my country when a mass shooting happened, and I also have children who are American, and they go to school here. And like any parent, I want my kids to be safe. And here in California, kids do two things that I never experienced when I was growing up. One is a drill for what to do in the event of an earthquake, an unavoidable phenomena of nature. And the other is a drill on what to do if a person enters the school with a gun, which, in my opinion, is not an unavoidable phenomenon of nature, and yet, sadly, is way more commonplace in America than major earthquakes. And when I was thinking about this last week, I saw this chart from the New York Times, which many of you will have seen, that shows every large country that has experienced a mass shooting. And if you look on the left there, the left side represents the number of mass shooters, and the bottom shows the amount of guns in a country. Now, where's America on this chart? There's America. So although these types of mass shootings have become normal in this country, they're not normal at all for the rest of the planet. And it's pretty clear from that graph that more guns leads to more mass shootings. And I know this firsthand because I'm from Great Britain, where in 1996 there was a primary school shooting where 16 children and one teacher were shot and killed. And afterwards, lawmakers passed restrictive handgun laws in the UK, and there hasn't been a school shooting since. That was 22 years ago. In Australia, in 1996, a man in Australia killed 34 people in Port Arthur, Tasmania. And in response, the country passed the National Firearms Agreement, and there hasn't been a mass shooting in Australia since. In Japan, now I read this in Japan, according to the Business Insider, people in Japan can own a gun if they do the following: if they attend an all-day class, pass a written test where they have to have 95% accuracy on a shooting range test, they have to pass a mental health evaluation, pass a rigorous background check, including interviews of your friends and family, and then they can only buy shotguns and air rifles. They cannot buy handguns. And every 3 years, they must go back and retake the class and the initial exam. And as a result, Japan has virtually no gun deaths. No mass shootings, barely any gun deaths in general. Now, I'm sure some people may think that the laws in Japan and other countries are too extreme and infringe on civil liberties. But what the strict gun laws in Japan and in Britain and Australia show us is that stricter gun laws can make a difference in reducing mass shootings. And we've done this too many times. I'll be honest with you, after the mass shootings of the past few years in America, I felt exactly the same as you. I felt angry and confused, frustrated that nothing would be done to try to avoid these massacres. it somehow always becomes political. Some on the right would argue that it's not the time to talk about gun control, while others on the left argue that for the victims, it's too late to be talking about gun control. But I feel like perhaps something has changed after the shooting in Parkland, because this time, the children seem to be using their voices louder than ever to demand that their elected officials address this issue. The survivors of the Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School, not the right wing or the left wing, not politicians, but the kids who, for most of their lives, have been doing the same active shooter drills that our kids will do, that very same drill. And I bet many people in this studio have done the same. And these kids, they're saying, you know what? We want something done. No more tweeting, no more thoughts and prayers followed by inaction. They are saying, we demand change. And until we get it, we're going to call you out on it. And we're going to lay down in front of the White House in protest. And we'll organise a march for our lives in Washington, D.C. on March 24th until somebody, somewhere, listens to us. And when I see these kids talking, when I see it, it makes me feel hopeful. Like, it isn't foreign late-night hosts you need to listen to. Don't listen to me. Just ask anyone that knows me. But you can listen to America's children. And it fills me with optimism that maybe Americans will be able to come together and put aside their differences to make a sensible change for those kids, for our kids, and for all Americans. March 24th, Washington, D.C. We'll be right back.